What are the most alkalizing foods? So we're going to make an alkaline list of foods and an acid list in foods. By looking at this acid alkaline list, you can determine what is the best foods for arthritis and what are the worst. The most alkalizing is the humble lemon. And the lemon is acid where it should be and it's alkaline where it should be. Acid in the stomach to help you digest your meal. But when it's broken down in the gastrointestinal tract and the minerals are absorbed into the tissues, the minerals are an alkaline forming minerals. So this is the sodium and potassium and calcium and magnesium and iron. So the lemon is high in the alkalizing minerals. Dark green leafy vegetables. Dark green leafy vegetables are very alkalizing. We should be eating dark green leafy vegetables every day. So someone might ask, well, what about cooked spinach? Spinach is high in oxalic acid, and in its raw state, the oxalic acid is in an organic state, so it's alkalizing. But when you cook silver beet or spinach, the oxalic acid now is in an inorganic state and it can have an acid effect. So people who have arthritis or gout, they're best to keep to the raw cabbage. Maybe they have a cooked cabbage dish occasionally, but that's the only green that will turn because of the oxalic acid in it when it's cooked. Also vegetables. Vegetables have an alkalizing effect. But for the arthritic person, there are a few vegetables that can have an acid effect, and that's bell pepper. So when someone's wanting to conquer arthritis, the bell pepper must stop. Tomato. Tomato can also have an acid effect on someone who's suffering from gout or arthritis. Eggplant, sometimes called aubergine, and also the potato. And I'm referring here to the English potato. The Fijians call it the white man's potato. I'm not referring to the sweet potato. The sweet potato is not a potato, it is a yam. So these can have an acid effect on the arthritic person. If a person doesn't have arthritis, they often can eat this class of vegetables. But if you're wanting to conquer your arthritis, your gout, these things have to stop. Not forever, it's just till you've conquered it. Also fruit. Fruit is alkalizing. Millet. Millet is an alkaline grain, as is quinoa, as is buckwheat. Buckwheat is also an alkalizing grain, or an alkaline forming grain, and spelt and kamut. These are alkalizing grains. There's another one called enkenhorn. So any of your ancient grains from the ancient wheat have an alkalizing effect. Almonds are the alkalizing nut, and Brazil nuts. They're the two alkaline forming nuts. And regarding legumes, the lima bean and lentils and soy. And again, the soy must be organic, non-GMO. All your seeds, they also have an alkalizing effect. The most acid food that can go into the body is the pure crystallized acid that's extracted from the sugarcane plant. It is incredibly acid, it's a pure acid. Also meat. Dr. Colin Campbell in his book China Study, he shows how he could turn cancer cells on and off by the amount of meat and dairy products that he was giving them, because cancer loves an acid environment. These acid foods are high in the acid forming minerals, which is chlorine and phosphorus and sulfur. When meat breaks down in the body, it gives off a high sulfur waste. So it's particularly acid forming is the meat. Also the hybridized wheat of today. Wheat was hybridized in the 50s. It went through intensive crossbreeding. It was rushed through. No safety studies were done. They didn't think they had to do safety studies on just wheat. But the effect of it is being seen today. So many people are gluten intolerant, and one of the reasons is the hybridization of the wheat created an incredibly complex protein or gluten structure, so it's very difficult for the gut to break down. And it is higher in the acid forming minerals, and when that wheat is grown with superphosphate, chlorinated water, so all of these conditions bring it together to make it more acid forming. And most wheat today is grown with glyphosate or Roundup, so there's more acid forming because all your chemicals have an acid effect. So your aged cheese is very acid forming. So the only cheese that doesn't have an acid effect would be things like your goat feta or sheep feta. That they are basically on a neutral. Caffeine has a very acid effect on the body. Alcohol, not a food, but it certainly creates an acid environment. Tobacco, not a food, but it also creates a very acid environment. All your other grains, other than the millet, quinoa, buckwheat spelt kamut, and also all your other legumes, other than lima, lentil and soy, and all your other nuts, other than your Brazil and almonds, have an acid effect. To maintain a 6-point environment at the cellular level, we need to be taking probably 20 to 30% acid forming foods. And this explains why, because some people see this and say, does that mean I can't eat rice? Well, you can eat rice. Yes, it is an acid grain, but you need a little acid. So it's not that they're totally out, but this 20 to 30% ideally should come from this little section here. And we should be having approximately 70 to 80% alkaline forming foods. What that will do is that will maintain the cellular pH conducive to recovering from arthritis. See, the blood pH never changes. Your lungs and your kidneys are constantly working to keep the blood pH in the area that it should be, but the cellular pH can change, and your cellular pH is influenced by the breaking of these laws. It's influenced by dehydrated, it's influenced by lack of oxygen, it's influenced by a very acid diet. Then the cellular pH becomes more acid, and that is where arthritis and gout like to thrive. We've got to get alkalinity into those joints, and when your blood is carrying the food that is more alkaline, then it's contributing to the alkaline or less acid environment around the joints.